What's going
Doing?
on, man?
Glad to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Since Chad is here and since people are here, and they know a little bit about me, not nearly as much about you. Um, how do you introduce yourself? Tell me a little about yourself, man.
Man, I say I'm Camilo Hannibal Smith, independent journalist based out of Houston, Texas. Originally from New Jersey. I've been in the game, as a freelance culture writer for a long time. Um, and yeah, I just do stories where I'm based. I came out here 10 years ago to work in independent media, to work at the Houston Press, and
Hmm.
um, and yeah, I just been doing my thing and trying to create like an archive of stories and trying to better my multimedia work. So I'm just a student of the game and part-time teacher, an adjunct at the University of Houston. But yeah, I'm just a
Okay,
Jersey dude. Lived on the West Coast. Now I'm on the South, the dirty South, H
man.
Town.
There you go. Wait, so how long you been in Houston?
Yeah, 10 years. I mean, 10 years in February, March. I came out here, yeah,
Wow.
2014.
Okay.
Dragged my
All right.
family out here. I was like, we're gonna go for this newspaper job. Of course, newspaper jobs. That's a whole other ball game.
Newspaper job. I mean, everything's a whole. It's a cold game out there. Period. As everybody
Indeed.
knows. But yeah, man. So you said you referred to yourself as a culture writer.
The
Yeah,
reason
I'm
why I
a
say it is because,
mm,
when if you say, I'm a journalist, I think a lot of people, equate that with, maybe you're covering fires, investigations, things like that. And not to take anything away from culture journalism, because I think it's still very important. Like we're still chronicling the times. We're still letting people know, what's going on in the
mhm.
now. But I feel like it doesn't get as much respect. But yeah, culture, man, culture is where it's at.
Seriously,
That's,
like that's it. Everything. I mean, in the U.S. we're fighting a culture war right now. I feel like there's five, six different culture wars
oh
happening
yeah,
globally. Actually, not even just in the U.S., but I mean, it's international. But we could do all the meta stuff. I wanna get right
very
into it.
mad. Let
Yeah,
me back
yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit for a bit.
Yeah. I want to get right into it, man. I thought maybe we could just start with the. Can we just look at a match real quick or part of a match? You sent me over
Uh,
this.
Man, this is like a warehouse in Magnolia Park, Houston, like the oldest Latino neighborhood in Houston, Mexican American to be specific. And every Sunday night, this is what they do, man. They bring out probably like a 99.9% Hispanic crowd, Latino crowd, and they watch these dudes get up on the ring.
This
Oh,
this is
okay.
a video that's made by what the promoters. So they uploaded the whole. This is a 2 hour video. It's
Hey, this
all the matches of the night uploaded to uh
yeah,
to YouTube.
this is somebody who's probably doing the promoter a solid. This is somebody who's working on the side because the promoter himself, I know, doesn't get involved with too much of this stuff. But this is somebody who's probably doing them a solid. Like, hey, let me upload this to help promo you. Yeah, this all this
Yeah.
stuff is fairly new.
Okay.
Um,
Where's this dude? This guy.
oh, Lowrider. Okay, I'll tell you about this guy.
Yes, please.
This guy,
This dude's
I've
legit. His
seen.
name is Lowrider.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've seen this guy on announcements. I want to say Oklahoma, all around. Like he travels like different Latino communities and
Okay.
wrestles. From what I know about him, because I haven't really been able to catch up to him and speak to him in person, but I've asked other
Mm.
people about him. He's from Houston, and he's building his name as really on like the Lucha Libre circuit, and also in kind of the more, I don't know, mainstream or American wrestling style independent circuit. But yeah, lowrider. So a lot of these guys, they take names that are attached to like Chicano culture,
Hmm.
and so that, for some reason, let's say I'm a recent immigrant, that's one thing I'll connect with is like Chicano culture. I might, Chivo and those guys, they'll connect with like certain states in Mexico. And so like let's say I came from Michoacan, or I came
Okay.
from, someplace, like I'll have a wrestler who represents my state. And this guy's kind of trying to represent kind of the Chicano, but I don't think he's from, like, I don't think he was even born here, because I feel like yeah, I don't know if he's like you know, what I'm trying to say is I think he's also part of this group, like, influx of recent immigrants who just, got into the wrestling game. But he's good. He's good. He's really good.
Yeah. So I mean, we could play this. We could show. Let's just look at a little bit of this, and then we'll look at a little bit of another match. I think, dude.
Yeah, see that comes with the price of admission right there.
Some of these moves are out of control, man. Look,
Yeah.
bro could have
Okay.
kicked
So he
somebody in the
spotted him though when he
face.
went out there. So the people in the front kind of cleared out because what they'll do is you don't see it really. I don't think in the video, but they kind of give him a heads up, like, "Yo, he's about to do something," and then the
Yeah.
people in the front clear out. But that is required energy at these events. If you're not even in the local independent American scene, like if you're not throwing people in chairs into the crowd, that kind of interaction, people aren't gonna pay $25 for just sitting around in the ring. That's what they pay for.
It reminds me of like going to the SeaWorld. You ever been to SeaWorld, man? I know like people, I don't even know if
It
people
is
go to
like
SeaWorld
zero.
anymore. You know what I mean? But like you
Yes.
go to
Yeah.
SeaWorld and then you go there when you're a kid, and then there's the kids who's like, I want to sit up front. I want to sit up front. It's Shamu. And it's like, why you want to sit up front? You can get splashed and be cold all day.
Yeah.
But they felt like that was part of the experience. I thought that was the silliest thing in the world. Bro, you want to go sit up front and get kicked in the face? Is that what you
Get
want?
kicked in. You pay extra too. You pay. I swear to God, the seating is extra. Front row seats are a little bit extra. They're like $5, $10 extra.
For the
So
possibility of legitimately getting kicked in the face. Because my
all right,
man
so
really did throw somebody into the
he
crowd.
did. That's the same spot. So on the other side, so on the right side of that ring, I've
Hmm.
been in that area where they did that. They didn't spot well, and they crashed into a bunch of little kids. And the moms were furious. Like nobody got maimed or anything. I mean,
Right.
there were a bunch of kids crying, and the guy when one of the women in the crowd was like, "What's going on?" Like, breaking. It was reality. It was like, "Yo, what's going on?" He's like, "Yo, this is Lucha Libre. Like, it's do or die. Like these dudes are working, so you got to get the kids out the way. That's how it goes down. That's how it goes down in this venue.
Yo, okay. And I mean, we there's so many others. I mean, we got women pulling up in here. I mean, it's all like
Yeah,
the entire just the gamut. The gamut. Cuz
you passed one
this is
woman on there.
what's up?
There's one woman. She's got like the pink. Her right there. That's
Yeah,
Spooky.
yeah.
She's
Spooky.
she's got a cool story. Yeah, she calls herself L.A. Spooky. Like she's like Chicana from the neighborhood, and so she takes like a. It's supposed to be like a gangster Chicana kind of vibe she's got going. And
Uh-huh.
she's just like she's got a little kid. She's got a little son, and she brings him to the matches, and he watches her. Sometimes he comes out with her. Yeah,
Is it
sometimes
LA?
he.
Oh, yeah, LA Spooky or La Spooky?
So
What is she?
yeah, she never really. So sometimes she capitalizes it, so it's L dot A dot, and then other times I think when people don't speak to her, they put La Spooky. But it's kind of a play on both of those. So she's like La Spooky, but she's also L.A. Spooky.
Got you.
But she's from kind of like nearby neighborhoods. So this is like,
Wow.
Chicana from Houston, like living out her dreams. If you notice up there, the Cathedral of Lucha Libre in Houston. What made this special? What makes this event special is just the fact that it goes on a weekly basis. Like it's almost unheard of, even in just I guess regular style American wrestling,
Yeah.
for an independent promotion to be doing it weekly.
Yeah, so
Um,
let's back up, man. Let's back up. So what was it that made you like what was the inspiration behind saying, okay, here's something happened and let me write an article about this?
I came out to Houston to work for the Houston Press, and is like LA Weekly, it was actually owned by the same company, and I got a cover story in there about a Lucha Libre family because the way I had
Mm.
to pitch it, because you're right, people write it off. They're like, "Oh, this is just wrestling." I was like, "No, check it out. There's this whole family. Like a guy, his two sons, and he's trying to get his little 9-year-old kid to be a Lucha Libre wrestler." And so this became a cover story. This was back in 2017 or so,
Mm.
and I just kind of just sat on it. I reconnected with these guys probably over the course of like, so let's say like around the pandemic, just after the pandemic kind of eased up. So let's say like late 2020, 2021, I was just going like every other Sunday.
Yeah.
And then the dudes that were doing it, they like broke apart. Like it was like a business dispute. And so the one guy's broke apart from the other guy.
Oh shoot.
And And then I was like, wow, there's a lot of drama going on here, you know? And so, you know, the one guy who broke apart, he still was like, yeah, you can still come in and photograph. You know, I'm still doing this every weekend. Um, and then I had, you know, I told this editor I work with named Carrie Darling. He's the features editor at the Houston Chronicle. I was like, hey man, I got this story, you know, but I don't know, man, because I know if I flip a freelance story off of this, I'm gonna get a little bit of money, and it's gonna blow up, and like everybody's gonna be like on top of it. I was worried because I had done this in as a grad school project, and you know, it was my
Yeah.
thesis in grad school, and after it was published and it was like publicized, like this is a list of all the theses that came out of Columbia Journalism School this year. I got hit up by so many people who just wanted the idea. Like nobody was like, "Hey, come on and be like a co-producer on the documentary." Nothing. Everybody was just like, "Hey, could you give me your, you know, could you give me your peoples? Like, could you give me your contacts?" And so I was,
Yo,
yeah,
yo. Okay,
like
let's back up. Let's back up. Hold on a second. There's five
that's what
things I
this all
want to.
comes from.
That's what. Yeah, yeah. Because I know some of this, but I want to unpack about five things that you just talked about. Um,
Right.
One is Columbia Journalism School, right? So you went to journalism school.
I did. I didn't really have to, but I did. I thought it was going to help me keep a job, but it didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't feel like I really needed to, but I knew a lot of people who did at the LA Times when I worked there.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like if I go to journalism school to help me keep a job, I laugh at it now because shit just got worse after I left journalism school.
I mean, what's your connection to Lucha Libre? What's your connection there?
So, like I always say, my earliest memory was in Dover, New Jersey. They did this yearly. They did the Puerto Rican Festival. I'm pretty sure it was called the Puerto Rican Festival, although it might have been called like the Latino Festival.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my Latino side, I'm black and Latino. My Latino side immigrated from Colombia back in the '70s, and they stopped in New York. And one of the places that they ended up was this place called Dover, New Jersey. If you ever look up Dover, New Jersey, it's got one of the largest, strongest hardcore Hispanic populations. Started out as Puerto Rican, then it went to Colombian, and now I think it might be like Central American. But anyway, they had a yearly event there, and I remember one summer my mom took, and there was like Puerto Rican style lucha libre. So, you know, because lucha libre is translated to other Hispanic, Spanish speaking areas in the
Mm-hmm.
Caribbean, especially. Dominican Republic has its own like lucha libre federation. So I remember being like super close to the ring and seeing and noticing like the material of the mat and how the guys would fall on it. And it was like just beefy brown dudes, just, you know, and I don't know if there was a mask guy or not, but then I connect that with growing up. Now I told you my dad's black, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's always been like a movie fan. And
Okay.
there would be times it'd be like a Saturday morning or something. He'd be like, "Hey man, check this out. This is Mil Mascaras on TV." Or you know, he didn't say it with the accent, but he'd be like, "Mil Mascaras on TV." And I'm like, "What is this?" And it'd be like a dude with a mask on wrestling like the Wolfman and shit. And because my dad liked a lot of he liked that kind of stuff. He liked like B grade horror movies and all that stuff. So, you
Mm-hmm.
know, there's a whole history of lucha libre translating into the golden age of Mexican cinema, where they produced all these like, you know, lucha libre starring, you know, where the lucha libre guy was like the superhero of the piece, and so you know that.
Okay.
So it's a combination of like seeing it live as a kid and just being like, wow, and then my dad introducing it to me, and that was it. And like I didn't, you know, and I was a big wrestling fan, you know, like you know I'm an old head, so I was a big wrestling fan like in the whole Hulk Hogan era, and like kind of like the definitely in the '80s, like um, you know, recuerdo. I don't know why I'm talking Spanish right now. Another memory I have
It's all good.
is my dad's side, so my dad's from Newark, New Jersey, right? And so I would sometimes spend the weekends at my grandmother's house out there. And I
Mm.
remember they would put on the WWF. And
Yeah.
so like wrestling has always kind of been like there and part of my upbringing, you know? And like I said, I did in high school, but I was like never, even in high school, I wasn't.
Yeah. If you were sentient being in the late 80s and early 90s, I feel like I don't even think it was just being a kid. I feel like everybody knew who Hogan was. Everybody knew who
Yeah,
Hulk Hogan
rock and
was.
wrestling.
Yeah, it was just the obvious
Mhm.
thing. You know what I mean? Like Macho Man, Randy Savage, like all Ric Flair. You just knew who these people were. They were actually known entities, they were known celebrities. You know what I mean? I definitely wasn't aware that there was a whole parallel thing happening in, in Mexico. And definitely, I like, you just now telling me that there's another version of that. Puerto Rico, there's another version of that. Like, I didn't
Hmm.
realize that there's different versions and spin-offs. And
Yeah.
what are the differences? I mean, were you aware of the differences in different areas as a kid? Did you know, oh yeah, the
I,
Mexicans do
I
it like
think it
this,
was
Puerto
just
Ricans do it like this? Did you know that?
no, I think it was just the cultural. I mean, I just knew that anytime you asked a Spanish speaking person about wrestling, they
Mm,
would automatically call it lucha libre because that's just what it translates to for people, you
right.
know. So lucha libre is both just a way of talking about wrestling in Spanish, but then when you get to like Mexico, I feel like it's a definitive cultural kind of landmark. It's a cultural touchstone
Mm,
because it kind of evolved at the same time or just slightly later than American wrestling, but became like its own thing, like became like part of like a national identity, which is weird, and that I had no concept of. I mean, I just want to jump in and say, you as a person who's well versed in Japanese culture, like that's a whole other aspect of it.
yeah.
Like Japan is they have their own thing. Like a lucha libre star could go to Japan and make money, and come back just like American stars can go to Japan and make money because they love it to a certain degree as well. And I want to say like they even upped it a little bit with the lucha libre stuff because you'll see like Japanese dudes like the Tiger Mask. I know there's a dude called Tiger Mask that was a big star back in the day, and
Yeah.
he just straight up wore a Tiger Mask.
Yeah.
Um, and I think they took their own culture and added to it. Like you see the dudes with the dragon mask.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just it evolved in a way that is just part of being, and to kind of so it is part of the national identity in a sense,
Hmm.
but in doing this work I've also realized that it's part of like a working class culture, and so it's really something
Mm.
that like certain people look down on, like I'm not talking bad about my wife at all. She's from Mexico City, but like she won't go to any lucha libre events just because she's like, man, I'm not down with all that violence and everything, because she knows like
Oh.
in her country is it's part of the culture, but at the same time, it's kind of there. You look at it as like, okay, it's more like a working class thing. And as you read the literature about, you know, how lucha libre evolved in Mexico, it was really like a poor person's entertainment at a certain point, and then it got to
Ooh.
TV. I mean, this stuff I was reading in books about it,
Yeah.
and then it got to be televised, and then it raised the bar a little bit because it was on television. The people who could afford TVs, but then it kind of dipped down again, and so now it's
Mm.
still kind of like a very kind of working class kind of because it's very vulgar. They'll be shouting racial epithets. Like if there's a black dude in the ring and you
Mm.
listen, you'll hear them say like chocolate this. Like I've heard people say like disparaging things about black people to get into the ring.
Mm.
Obviously, they're saying stuff about white people getting in the ring, but there's a lot of racism. There's a lot of homophobia in it. Um, and that's a whole other aspect. That's something I've seen. I think makes it a little bit troubling and problematic. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I took that in a whole other way. But I think you would ask a more simple question. I apologize.
No, 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 no. These are all good directions, man. Because you kind of start to get at least a little bit of the surface of how deep this can get. We've talked a little bit about the perceptions of lucha libre, right? It's definitely working class thing, like you just said. Even within Mexico, like if you're from the city, that's kind of a that's what they do out kind of in the country.
Yeah,
That's some lower
exactly.
class stuff. I don't really want to be associated with
Yeah,
that. Just
yeah.
it's like it's a I'm using big air quotes here. It's a low class thing
Mhm.
to be into. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
it's a hobby that is not becoming of somebody who's a cosmopolitan type person, right?
right.
Honestly, in a similar way to, like, if you're into wrestling now in the States, that's a little weird. You know what I mean? If you're going to the shows, I feel
It
like
is.
that's a little, it's unusual. I'm just gonna say it's unusual. Like if you take this stuff serious, it's damn, really? Um
Wrestling fan dudes, like the hardcore dudes.
yeah,
if
yeah.
if you go,
It's a
yeah,
very
if you
particular it's a very particular type of person, but I think there's
mhm.
a Now I've talked to people who are really into it, and actually when they get going, it's pretty interesting. But stereotypically, I'm just talking real stereotypically. Um, so when you make this piece, or you do a project as a journalism student, right? You get a master's at
Right.
Columbia, obviously hugely famous journalism school. What were your peers saying about this? Did they take this seriously? What did they think?
Most of them were like, "Yo, that's a badass idea. Yo, that's fucking cool."
Mm,
Um, the the kind of the gatekeepers, the professors and everything, they needed it to go deep for it to
mm,
be a project there. So they needed to know about the business structure. Like overall, my thesis was that um, the Mexican population had swelled in New York. Since because I lived in LA from 2001 to 2007,
mm,
and I grew up in Jersey, like 10 miles outside of Manhattan. So like I'm pretty well versed on New York and what it's like. And when I came back, and then from well, I should just say, when I left LA, I went straight to Mexico City, and I lived there for 2 years.
okay.
And in that time, I was doing projects around like Mexican hip hop, and I was going to Lucha Libre events, but I was just chronicling it for myself. Like I was just doing videos and stuff for myself. And then when I went to Colombia, that was my first time going back to the States. And then I landed back in New York, which I hadn't been in like almost 10 years. And I noticed right away that like the similarities between having just freshly been in Mexico City and going to like, Arena Mexico, which is where they put on like the best lucha libre matches like on the planet happen in Mexico City at
Mm,
this place called Arena Mexico and Roma. Going to New York, seeing that, and then going to like I went. It was like September, so you start Columbia in August, and in September, you're like looking for stories, like what's my thesis going to be, and I
yeah.
went to a a Mexican event, and I looked down on the floor on the ground. This is how it happened. I looked down on the ground. I went to like a celebration. It was like a Mexican Independence Day celebration. I looked
Yeah.
down on the ground and I saw a flyer, and I was like, and it was a Lucha Libre flyer. I was like, God damn! I was like, that flyer looks exactly like the flyers I saw in Mexico City, but that has a New York address on it. And I was like,
Mm,
I've never seen Lucha Libre in New York. Now, granted, there probably was Lucha Libre going on in New York. I just didn't notice it. And then when I picked up that flyer and I looked at it and I was like, damn, I called the number on it, started talking to the dude. It was like, obviously as a journalist, you're like, is this new? And they're all like, yeah, man, this is new. Like we haven't been doing this. There was a spot in Queens that was doing it like every so often they bring in people.
mm,
But really, you know, the demographer, like I remember we had a presentation from a demographer and I like asked a question like, hey, is the Mexican population been increasing here? And they're like, God damn it, yeah, man. Like there's like proof and data that this was happening.
yeah.
So I tied that into my interest to Lucha Libre. I said, hey man, more Mexicans here. They need more entertainment from where they're from. And there's dudes who are doing it. This is the story of one dude, and they wanted to know about the business. Dude did not want to tell me about his business and how it was working. So there's, like a lot of promoters, there's like shady underpinnings and
Ooh,
things
I,
like that.
I was about to ask, yeah, because I mean, anything promoters, anything you talking about music, you talking about boxing, you talking about wrestling.
Yeah.
The rap of that is everybody's shady. They're ripping off their
Yeah.
talent. They're ripping off the workers. What's the vibe like in
Yeah.
Lucha Libre? What's it like?
Yeah, man. Some guys will be wrestling for free. I mean, you're not getting health insurance if somebody body slams you and you get a concussion. So some of these guys are doing it for free. Some of these guys are doing it for like, you know, $25, $50. Well, probably not that low. Well, free or like $50, maybe 100
Yeah,
bucks. If you're like a well-known talent, then you're probably getting, I don't even know. Like they keep that stuff so secret. And like no matter how far in you think you're in with somebody, once you start talking about the numbers, like they don't tell you. So I
really.
got
Why?
one
Why
person
is
that
that?
I think because on one level it's passion driven. And
Mm,
so I think when you get something that's passion driven, you will get people who do shit for free or will do shit for very low cost. And then I think there's also probably like the promoters has to have their favorites. And there's probably people that they pay actual money to. But the guy I did my because Columbia would not let me submit that without putting in some numbers. And I basically just had to beg the guy, like, yo, man, you gotta please tell me how this works because I need to graduate. And so I think he told me something like it cost like At the time, he said something like $500 to put it on, and I got to look back at the piece again. But he did give me some numbers that added up.
So let's actually just take a look at this one here. Um, so this is your most recent piece, and this is the one that I wanted to talk about here. So this is in the Houston Chronicle. Weekly Lucha Libre event in East Houston keeps Latino subculture alive. It's, I mean, some of the photos in this are incredible. This dude legit getting thrown backwards into a ladder.
So that's Lowrider right there.
That's low. Oh, that's low. Dude's name. So that's
That's
low rider
Lowrider
throwing who?
throwing that guy. Throwing his name is like the Venador or something. Like the it's a complicated his name is a little complicated to translate. I know I was asking my wife, like, how do you translate this guy's name? Something like the second coming. You see how he's like that Christ symbol? So he's kind of
Yeah.
like the second coming or something like that. Like he's like I gotta see his name again, but I know something like that. It's kind of a complicated way to translate that.
Wow.
But folks get it. Folks who is meant for, they get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, man. So
So I started off because wrestling in general, I think, is known as like any form of wrestling has like old folks. I feel who run up and like yell at the wrestlers,
mhm.
and in Lucha Libre, like this lady was it. This lady Marta Gonzalez. That's why I started off with her. Because like I said, I was going there taking now those pictures, by the way, aren't by my photos. They're by this a chronicle photographer named Raquel Natalikio. I just wanted to throw that out there. But
Okay.
I I saw Marta at every event and I took photos of her and gave them to her. Like I really wanted to like figure out what her story was. I didn't have room to tell it here, but she's just there all the freaking time. Like she never misses a show. She brings her daughter brings her daughters, and it's a generational thing. It's like just in real time being able to like explain the cultural thing and just to see it happen. Like this lady came with like her whole damn family every single Sunday, and she
Wait. What?
just
Tell me
she
about this person.
so she doesn't get in the ring to actually wrestle, but she'll get in the ring to like yell at people. And they kind of they give her a little leeway because she's such a big fan. And every now and then they will prep her on storylines.
Oh
Like
shoot.
yeah, but like she's not a that's her right there.
This is
But
her. Okay.
she's not a wrestler. She's just like a super fan. And they make her part of the show, which is like, I mean, what fan wouldn't want that, you know? Like they just make her part of the show, and but she does curse at them. She does curse at them.
She- so
She
he
ever
said
toss a chancla? She I mean, she damn near does, but no, she hasn't. No, she keeps it. They keep it civil. They keep it civil to a degree. Like they don't throw shit at each other. But it's that is a good question though.
that
Yes.
would that would be truly the storyline right there. Like what pops up with the thing and just throws it in at
I
somebody.
mean, I'm sure that's happened somewhere. I'm sure there's some lucha libre event where some lady does do that because they get into it. Like they really get into it. They got their favorite wrestlers, and
Mm,
people come out there I mean, the wrestlers they prep their stuff, but if they prep it in a way that looks like one of them is getting taken advantage of or something, like
hmm.
she'll jump in there. Yeah, I've seen her do it a bunch. They'll pass her the mic, like they include her.
They give her the
So
mic. That's wild, yo.
yeah, they give her the mic sometimes. I mean, I've seen it happen a couple of times. So
Yeah. Oh yeah.
she gave me
Yo.
this quote here, which was, "Me gusta pelear con la bola de lucha libre," and I was like, man, what does that mean? Because like I speak pretty good Spanish, but like I said, I'm part Colombian, so it's like I know more Colombian Spanish. So, but that's like when you talk about la bola, like that's like a Mexican way of just saying like, um, you know, this bunch of dudes. But she was, because I asked her, like, why do you do this? Why do you get into it? She's like, I just like to get in. She likes to be part of the show, like she pays their money. Um, Shit, she might be getting in for free. I should ask her that. But she's there all the time, consistent, And I've asked other people about it, and they've been going to this event since it was just like a few wrestlers and a few people. Um, and so they kept with it, and now it is what it is.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, you can see even just in this picture right here. I mean, you can see the woman Marta, right? She's here. You got little kids. There's an actual baby in the
Yeah.
background. Legit, there's three generations in this photo. We got, this woman who's 44, somebody who could age wise could probably be her daughter, somebody who could be a granddaughter. You got old dude in the background, and you got another dude with it actually just carrying a baby in something,
Mhm.
might we remind you, in which dudes are regularly known to be thrown out of the ring into the audience.
They have crashed into that area, and that not that baby, but another one was being held, and the baby didn't get hit. I don't think. I think the mom got out of the way in time, but it was everybody was a little scared that day because they crashed into that area that she's in right now. But I think after that happened, they might have told him like, "Hey man, stop. Y'all got to be more careful." But yeah,
You
your
in the
babies,
you in the
your
splash
babies are
zone.
are in danger. Exactly, they are in the splash zone.
We've been talking about this sport, this art form, we could call it both of those things, as I mean, I think we generally understand it, at least in the States, we understand it as primarily a Mexican thing, which is cool. Um, you wrote about this as a Houston thing, and also you were telling me over DMs that this is starting to become also kind of a Southern thing specifically. Uh, what does lucha libre look like in the South in these communities?
Only thing I could tell from where I'm at is seeing it. I know that lucha libre follows where the Mexican population is, or generally the Mexican population has planted has firmly planted themselves, and it'll be in areas that maybe there's like factory work or there is agricultural work that brings a lot of people, like the people we were talking about, who in air quotes, are interested in this kind of activity and this kind of entertainment. The wrestlers themselves are probably, not as well trained, but still know how to put on the show. And whoever the promoters are, they're definitely paying some money to bring um, you know, either in kind of the southern circuit or more well known to go there. I had reached out to one luchadora, female lucha libre wrestler who performs in Atlanta, and I was asking her, I was like, hey, is there a lot of wrestling in Georgia? And she's like, yeah, we have the southern, like, I forget the name of it, but she's like, yeah, the Southern Wrestling Federation, like, we're out here. And she was a mass wrestler, and she was like, and I remember she had like when I looked at the pictures of her, she had like the name of her state on the back, and like her wrestling name was kind of like a play on like where she was from in Mexico. It's people who are really speaking to their specific communities who are out there. So like, for example, like in New York, when you bump into a recent Mexican immigrant, at least in the time when I was there 10 years ago, a lot of them are coming from Puebla. And
Okay.
Puebla is so heavy out there that there's actually a newspaper that's printed in New York that's like that comes from Puebla, that's like the Puebla Reader or something like that. So people from Puebla, Mexico, those are the folks that are over there. The guy who I was talking to, those are his roots. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think the different communities you go to, they have different they have reaches in different areas of Mexico. So I think that's how it looks. That's how it's different. And also, I think it's these communities are smaller in these places. Like, I've seen announcements for lucha libre events in Mississippi, um, Oklahoma for sure, Arkansas. And so these communities aren't. I feel aren't as well known as being
Mm-hmm.
places where folks of Mexican descent are migrating. But they're bringing this activity. They're bringing this culture there.
Is it basically all Latino people going to this stuff? Because that's what it looks like from the pictures.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean, since that story published back in September, and I went again because there was a radio guy who wanted me to help him with the piece.
Mm-hmm.
I saw like just some like regular ass white dudes there that I'd never seen before. Um, I've seen a brother now and then. Like when I say 99.9% of the people there are Latino descent, but it's really built for an audience who understands, Mexican slang, who understands, Mexican colloquialisms, things like that.
What, like, can you give me an example?
So like, okay, so like, if you are, so if you're from Mexico, right, and you're at a large event and somebody does something and they fuck up, or like you want to clown somebody in the event, you'll all start chanting culero, right? And so everybody's like says it at the same time. So it's like culero, culero, right? And so that is just like that's a very Mexican thing. That could happen at like a rock show, or so like, let's say somebody unplugs the sound, they'll start yelling that.
Mm.
There's other like little things that like Mexican audiences do, um, that you see that are frequented there. Well, another thing people always say is "chinga tu madre," like "fuck your mom," and that. So you hear that a lot. Like, so you'll hear like all obviously there's kids in the crowd, so it's. I always have a hard time. If you look at that top of that article, they put it in the family section, and
Yeah.
so they really kind of, because it is kind of like a family thing, but just the language and kind of the content is can be pretty adult in a way. So so yeah.
I saw one thing that we haven't talked about yet, and I'd love to know a little bit more about is there's almost like different categories of this, right? Where obviously you got women wrestling, you also have people wrestling in drag. And so does that fall under the exotico?
Well, you have people wrestling in drag, but you also have trans wrestlers,
Okay.
and so I think that that's something that the trans aspect was something that I included in my work, in my grad school work,
Mm.
because I found that really interesting. I know that there have been um, queer and gay wrestlers in kind of like the WWE and things like that, but I was um, I was really interested in like telling that story and like kind of figuring out how that interplayed, and because the first like full lucha libre event that I saw,
Mm-hmm.
from beginning to end was in LA. I think I told you this before.
Mm.
Um, I want to say it was like in a warehouse in like Whittier or someplace. And I just saw like a cardboard sign that said Lucha Libre is happening here, and I went. And I
Yeah.
remember when the queer wrestler came out, like people get really excited, and but like the wrestlers, like you know power move is like they go out and kiss somebody. Like that's like
Mm.
all the guys in the audience like, oh, don't kiss me, and they'll go and like sit on somebody's lap, and so people have fun with it, interplay with it. um but that's definitely that is the exotico category. So trans
Okay.
wrestlers in drag, queer wrestlers, that's the exotico category.
I feel like even if you want to look at WWF, WWE, whatever, it's all these stories, and all these stories are very simple, caricatures of whatever anxieties or feelings that
Yeah,
is happening in a place. You know what I mean? Whoever needed to be a boogeyman or a bad guy, you'd have a bad guy who is Japanese, have a bad guy who's Arab, you have all these different characters, and of course that's the person who it's okay to hate because they're bad. You don't hate them because they're this ethnicity or this religion, or their skin tone is this way. No, I hate them because look, they're supposed to be the bad guy. That's what I'm supposed to hate. And so there's this weird zone where I don't know how you feel about this. I look at this, and first off, the phrase exotico, I feel okay, that's a little odd. But then, yeah, it's like the there's a queer person who's playing a character of a queer person, and is that how they're able to fit in this scene? It's all kind of weird to me, man.
mm.
How do the wrestlers themselves feel about it?
I mean, the ones I spoke. So there's a trans wrestler out here in Houston, um, and her name is Fuerza Divina. And so
Okay.
I asked her this question,
Yeah.
and you know, her love of performing and her love of the art. Like she told me she used to be a drag performer, because I
Mm.
remember telling her, I was like, hey man, you look pretty natural, like in the ring. Like how long you been doing this? And she's like, I've been doing this a year. And I'm like, wow, but your interplay with the audience. She's like, oh, well, I come from the drag world. I used to be a drag
Wow.
performer.
That's wild.
And yeah.
That is
And
a
then I was
Venn
like,
diagram that I would not think exists. But
hey,
okay,
I'm
I
pretty
guess
I'm
drag
pretty
could be
sure she's
anything.
not.
That's true. Yeah.
And I saw her wrestle against the first, like, someone who bills herself as the first trans wrestler in Lucha Libre, a
Mm,
performer called Miss Gaviota. And this happened in Houston, and I was just like, damn, like this is kind of groundbreaking stuff. Like, you know, and Fuerza Divina told me, her name is Diana. She was like, that was like the end all be all for her to be able to wrestle with this iconic legend, from Mexico in Houston.
wow.
So I mean, like I said, like the people who are probably out there wrestling for free, putting their health and their life on the line for just the chance of being in the ring and performing for people. I think for a lot of folks, no matter their background, their first love is the wrestling. Is this, feeling like a superhero on stage, feeling like, a villain on stage or whatever. I mean, that's their stage. The ring is their stage. So,
Hmm.
you know, having the ability to do that kind of, how you say, like that just blows everything else away. The fact that they have to deal with some slurs and things like that, because people still see it as entertainment.
Hmm.
Um, and they got to play the character, because the characters is everybody's playing a character in wrestling. So I think they play that character. They do feel that they're able to exhibit their pride and who they are.
Hmm.
Because, like, when you see Fuerza Divina getting stage, like she's like, flashing her butt to people. She's being who she is. She's in her drag mode sometimes when she's performing, but she's also, you see her body slam somebody, or you see her do a flying kick to somebody, and you're like, okay, that's athleticism. She's putting
Hmm.
on the show. So yeah, the fact that they could put on the show, folks, are, I think that's the bottom line.
It's wild because I mean, there's this sort of standard, I don't want to call it liberal or whatever, which is, oh, this is, they're being forced to play this role, and the other roles aren't available for them, right? Like the trans person has to be that person, right? Like you could be
Yeah.
that you're forced into that, and that's the only way that you're acceptable. And that, I don't know. This is kind of me looking from the outside, and obviously not having gone to these events, but that's what it looks like. But then on the same side, I suppose I could see that, look, there's a place for me, at least. I could do my thing here, and
Yeah.
yeah, maybe there's some people who appreciate me. Maybe there's some people in the audience who look at me in this very, demeaning and stereotypical way, and they're only comfortable with me as a caricature. Hopefully there's some other people who appreciate me as a human behind that. I hope. I don't know. I can't pretend to know what's going through their heads, but yeah, it just seems like a wild position to be in.
Yeah, no, I feel what you're saying for sure. Because it's hard to say, like, is it a safe space for folks? Like, I mean, it's a performance space, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
for folks, but I know it definitely comes with all the anxieties, like you said. Um, like, I'll also point out one of the really popular characters that you see. I haven't seen him in a while in Houston, but there was also the immigration officer. This is apart from what we're talking about, but they always have a guy who'd be like the immigration officer, villain. But they kind of toned that down. I guess it got
What?
played out.
No, hold
Yeah,
on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Tell me about this. What? There's a in Lucha Libre they got an immigration audit officer. They got ICE as a
yeah.
wrestler.
There's like Ice Guy. There'll be like Ice Guy. I haven't seen him around in a while, but like there'll be an iteration of this character in different states. I even maybe might have had it in Mexico too. Um, but for some reason, I haven't seen that character in a while. Like, I think somehow that character got played out. I don't know how, but
Tell me,
they
no,
don't
tell me
really.
about this though. What would he do?
So it
What?
would be a dude. It would just be a dude in, like, ice, like a flak jacket or something, kind of dressed up, maybe paramilitary. Usually it's like a paramilitary outfit, and then maybe they got, like, ice on the back, stenciled on the back, and then they'll come out saying, like, go back to Mexico. They're the heel, so they'll come out, telling everybody to go back to where they come from, and And yeah, I used to see that character a lot, man. Like I think in the last in like 2016, 2017, when I started to first write about it out here, I used to see that character a lot. Different people would play it, but it was a way to get the crowd riled up.
So hold on, no, we got to. Was it like a Latino dude? Was it a white dude that they would have be this guy? What
It
was it?
it would I think it would usually be a white dude, but it could also be like a Latino dude. You know, it could be it could be a Latino dude sometimes. I'm trying to think the last one I saw that did that. Yeah, I think it could go either way. Because I remember they would have like sunglasses, so sometimes you couldn't exactly tell. But just the fact that because I think that character actually works even if it's a Latino or if it's just a person not Latino. Because I mean, there's definitely immigration ICE people who are from the same culture. But just the fact that they're like out in the ring, they're outside the ring saying like, "Hey, get out of here!" Show me immigration card, whatever. Like
Yelling
it's
at the
automatic.
audience as part
Yeah,
of the
yelling at
show.
the yeah, and the people yelling back, fuck you, because that's the whole. It's call and response, man. That whole lucha libre thing is call. I mean, all wrestling I think is call and response. But that's straight up like the young audience are like screw you, and then maybe the person who he's going against will come out with like the Mexican flag, and it'll be like Mexico versus the racist U.S. There's been like Donald Trump characters. I haven't seen any specifically, but I've read and seen videos of like kind of like pro Trump characters, but yeah, I haven't seen too much of that lately for some reason.
See, this is the stuff I like about, like, I think this is an opportunity, I think, to kind of get outside of the understanding of wrestling that I think we usually have, which is just, oh, this is just some weird stuff that low class people do, and I would never do that, right? I am much more sophisticated. I watch Game of Thrones, on the couch, right? This is what I do. But take me through this, man. What makes a brown person in the South want to pay $25 to sit in an auditorium with a bunch of other people, and a guy with an ICE uniform comes in and starts yelling at them to go back to Mexico?
It's cathartic. I think in a sense, this is what I've been told by the people there as well. Is it's a catharsis. To be able to go to some place. There's beer there. People bring their own coolers. It's straight up BYOB. All the events I've been to mostly, unless it's in a nightclub. Sometimes they have lucha libre in nightclubs, which is crazy because the
Damn.
ceiling is like a lot lower. But you just lit. You having a good time. Like it's what I think it's the appeal of regular wrestling too. Like the villains will come out and yell, and you're yelling at them. Um, but apart from the just yelling at somebody who's coming out telling you the ice character stuff, it's like I told you before, like just that connection to my childhood and the generational connections that
Mm.
like people want to say to their kids, hey, and I met several people who were like, I came out to this because I wanted my kids to see what it's like for the first time. Now, why would a kid want to be yelled at by ICE or whatever? Like, I don't know, but I know that the thrill of like, seeing your pops or your grandma get up there and, yell at somebody, a lot of people don't get to do that at work. They don't get to do that to the officers or whoever's threatening them. Like, goddamn, right? They're trying to do the whole check your ID out here stuff. Like, all this wildness. If that ICE character does come back, or some kind of like law enforcement character comes back, it
Yeah.
would make a lot of sense if that happened now. Um, but it's a
Oh,
voice.
wait,
They
hold
gotta
on.
have a
I actually don't know this. Is the law, is something changing? Is some policy changing down there now?
in Texas. Yeah, they're pushing a policy to be able to check. That stuff they were doing in Arizona. Check people's papers. Show me your papers laws.
Again?
That Yeah, yeah. Abbott's pushing that right now. That is in heavy combo and heavy rotation, if not on the books, about to be on the books.
That's
Um,
that's a good point you bring up, though. Is, I mean, no joke. Like, why would you bring your kid to one of these events? I mean, it's entirely possible that some kid has seen their dad or their mom get stopped and frisked by some officer on the street, or get questioned on the
yeah,
street. And then in that situation, what do you have to do? Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, of course, sir. They can't say anything.
Yeah.
even though they know that mom should be able to yell back at this person because the officer is being a jerk. The dad should be able to yell back at this person. They can't do anything. And so now let me take them to a scenario where you can see dad be the man that you know, that you believe he is. You can see mom be the woman you know she is, not this small version that the authorities of the law shove into this box.
Yeah, no, it's wild, man. I mean, so much of the rhetoric, especially out here, the buoys and all that stuff, on the border, and
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen that character in a while. I don't know why, and it hasn't, now that we're talking about it, it's not that, those anxieties are gone.
You were saying you were a little hesitant about writing about this.
Hmm.
And let's be real, just the fact that you say they're doing all the announcing in Spanish. If you don't speak Spanish, it's not for you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you're not the target audience. You can come, you can watch, but you're not really the target audience. But I don't know. Is there any
And the money.
concern that it would get gentrified anyway? I hate to say that
Okay.
word.
All right. So that's a whole other thing, man. So this section of Houston is extremely gentrified. This section of Houston, this is the one section of Latino Houston that does
Mm-hmm.
not have $500,000 townhouses going up everywhere. And
Uh huh.
part of it is because it's so close to the ship channel, which the soil is a little bit toxic, let's be real. And the venue itself, when you go there, you're walking through like what looks like a bombed out bus depot. And so it's like
Damn.
it's a warehouse. Now, granted, other independent wrestling events happen here that have
Mm-hmm.
a different audience, a little bit of a mix, but a different audience. So people just know this as like a wrestling spot who are into like indie wrestling.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like this last bastion of this culture for people. And
Mm.
another thing I want to mention is the photographer for this. She's from LA, and she moved out here, and she kind of caught on really quick the similarities between Houston and LA, and that's why I knew she would figure out the family angle I was going for. But she told me, she was like, the more press they get, man, it's better for them. And I was like, you're right. Like, who am I to gatekeep when these people have a business that they're trying to run? Because, like,
Yeah.
I'm not in the business of promoting and marketing, but an article in the local regional paper is going to give them more asses in the seats. And they got like the taco vendor in the front. He's going to sell more tacos so
Mm-hmm.
I'm helping out their ecosystem by just following my nose and writing these articles. And so it goes back to grad school when I did my piece, and I was hungry to get some kind of like lead in or someplace. I was applying all these places to get work, and people just hit me up like, "Hey, can I get your contacts for your Lucha Libre story? We want to do a production house would call me up. Can we license some footage? Can we this and that?" And it's like I don't want to pass that story. The story could get gentrified, I guess. Um,
Mm.
but I feel like the place I come from, trying to follow this story, that's what I feel like gives me um, more expertise or whatever to
The
talk
story could get gentrified. How do you mean that? Because that's one of the things. Like I think a lot of times, when you find something specifically, let's just be real. When you find something from a community that is not in the majority,
Yeah.
you've seen those done wrong so many times
Yeah.
that you just it's not even on some ego stuff that I'm the only one who could do it. It's that
Hmm.
I don't necessarily trust other people to do this because I can imagine how it could go wrong. Is that something you're worried about? That you said the story getting gentrified.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would
Mm-hmm.
go to these events. Just I would take pictures and just give the prints. Like how a lot of photographers will do. They'll give prints to people for free.
Mm-hmm.
Just to show them like, hey, this is the kind of stuff I'm trying to do. So I put in the work over like years and years of just keeping in touch with these guys, um, building up trust and everything. And honestly, a film crew could come from wherever and just plop in and be like, "Hey, we want to film you," and they probably wouldn't say no. But like I've given the care to like I know the senora. You know what I mean? Like she
Mm-hmm.
invited me to go. She's like, "Hey, I need some pictures of a birthday party. Could you come take pictures?" Like now I know these people. So it's
Yeah.
so these I'm part of this community. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like I live in Houston. I live in Third Ward. That's second ward, but like we're still part of the bigger community. So I don't really come at it like trying to figure out how can I capitalize off of what they're doing. Like
Yeah, what you could
I
extract.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Extractive journalism, parachuting in, extracting their stories. Like I want to do it in a way that gives care and showcases the pride that people have and what they're doing and what they care about. Because this shit is deep, man. It's really not, and I don't know if it's deeper than how other kinds of independent wrestling is, but like I feel like this is so connected to like how you pointed out that photo. This is so connected to family and generations that it's not just about body slam, because honestly a lot of that wrestling stuff gets a little boring after a while. Like after you go a bunch of times it's a little bit boring because they're not the WWE people jumping off the cage and everything. That they don't have those skills yet,
Hmm.
but it's the whole environment, the people, seeing the new characters, like how they relate to the culture. Like that to me is what keeps it interesting and fresh. And it's not like I can barely watch wrestling on TV. I get bored after a while. The storylines that they have at this event, very basic. We're gonna come back next week and defeat you guys. That's basically what it is.
Right.
But the people come out week after week, man. They come for the micheladas, the Mexican candies, the tacos. They come to talk Spanish. Sometimes I'll talk to somebody in Spanish, and like my Spanish is pretty good. But like if they pick up that like it's not my first language, they'll switch to English, and I'll just be like, oh, we could have just been talking English this whole time. You speak. So it's like it's more of a sense of cultural pride that this event has that I think is really the story of it and why it's important and why it's lasting and why people care about it.
Mm. Do some of the fighters, the luchadores, do they live in the community? Because I saw that there's some people from out of town, but do people live there? Like, is this happened in the second ward? Like, do people live there?
Hell yeah, yeah. There's a guy named Lil Poppy. He's kind of grown. So he's like a zoot suitor kind of guy,
Okay.
and Lil Poppy is he's getting a lot of work, and he's from the area. LA the Spooky, she's from the area. She's just a homegirl, man. She's a homegirl. Used to be a boxer. She's a homegirl from
Damn.
the neighborhood. So it's a handful of them who are like from the neighborhood, grew up just like I did. The parents said, "Hey, check this shit out." There's
Hmm.
actually an Afro Mexican dude. His name is Antonio Rosas. His dad is black. His mom is Mexican, and he's from Fifth Ward. And he comes
Okay.
down there every day. He's a big dude. So he just comes out and does his thing, and for him it's cultural pride, man. And he does other events, but the lucha libre stuff is important to him because that's part of his culture, his family, and it's beautiful to see. Like when you talk to these people about it, like they get it. Like the stuff that I'm explaining to you,
Yeah.
like like sometimes people can be part of something, but they don't see it like how we see it as journalists. Because like we're always looking at it, from a little bit above, like trying to figure out how everything fits.
Right.
Like they see it. Like I'll talk to them. They'll confirm all this stuff to me. I was like, damn, how do I capture that and share that? Because I know that's what they want. Like they want to have a bit of fame. They want people to recognize what they're doing. So if I can be
Yeah.
part of that,
Yeah. That's an
then
interesting thing too, because
this.
I think every now and again, man, you'll see some in a comment section saying, "Yo, like." You writing about this in the white press, man. These white people are gonna come through, they're gonna mess it up. And it's kind of wild because I understand what you're saying, but also just like you say, yo, lady selling tacos out front, she's gonna make more money. And like people want to be seen, they want to be seen in a way that's dignified and respects what they're doing. And so look, I mean, some of the way one of the ways that I look at it sometimes is somebody's gonna write about this.
Mm,
Somebody is going to write about this. It should be somebody that is going to take care with it.
yeah.
That doesn't mean don't be critical. The idea of being able to hide something it just doesn't exist. You know what I mean? It
Hmm.
comes down to, okay, look, it's going to be written about, it's going to be talked about. Let me do this with some care and some sense. Uh,
Right.
yeah, and I think that's what you're doing. So Yo, thanks for writing about this, man.
And
And you say there's more people. You've seen some new faces in the crowd since you wrote the article.
yeah, I saw some. Okay, so I saw one dude, big, tall, white dude, and another white guy, and then I could tell his friend was sitting next to him, like leaning in, explaining to him, like translating for him. So
Yo.
the guy was in the front seat, and boom, they slammed somebody. Like that's what people are there for. That whole throw people in the chair stuff. That's the excitement that like is universal. Like if you're in a venue and somebody's like throwing somebody out of the ring, there's like a palpable excitement you feel when that kind of stuff is going on. I mean, the other thing that I think is interesting is that
Mm.
I have noticed that from time to time there are people who come in there that maybe or maybe uh, how do I say this without getting in trouble? This is a definite belief I have though.
Mm.
There's got to be some ties between like the fuck it, I'll just say it. There's got to be some kind of narco element that comes out to these, and
Uh-huh.
I only say that because you can tell like the folks who are like just like from the community, and then you can see like sometimes there are people that come there who like they just come. If you know Mexican culture, like border culture and stuff like that, you would know what I'm talking about. But like I can just tell, like you can tell there's people uh, who come there who have
Mm-hmm.
money,
Yeah,
right?
co-
Just
coming to flex.
yes, yes, yes. So,
Coming
you
to
know
fl-
they bring
coming.
they
Co-
got the arm candy on the side, all
mm-hmm.
operating and everything, and I'm like, dude, those folks aren't really from around here, but like they're coming to hang out.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just throw that out there because it's just the differences in the audiences that I see, and I just assume that yeah that there's folks from the street game. Let's just say that they're from the hood who coming out and checking it out, man. It reaches across all cultures.
Look, you're doing something if you're in an environment where you're in a pretty solid working class entertainment venue. You're gonna get
Mm-hmm.
the entire spectrum.
Yeah,
Legit, you're gonna get the entire spectrum. You're gonna get the teacher. You're gonna get, you know what I mean, the shop owner. You're gonna get the person who maybe is involved with some street stuff. You're gonna get the person who is that person's mom who really wishes they wouldn't be involved with the street stuff, but
right.
damn, I can't get him to stop. Whatever, and that's how he goes out. But I mean, if nothing else, that shows that really everybody is coming out to these. And yo, for real, thanks for writing about this. You got to do more, man. I want
Yeah,
more of this. I want more of this.
yeah. No, no. I'm gonna do it, man. I think the thing because projects, for your projects stack up. I did my resolutions, what I'm gonna work on, and
Yeah,
I think I want to do like a day in the life of one of these folks. The
please
one
do.
the girl from the hood who's from the hood has a kid. She's trying to make it, works her 9 to 5, works on in wrestling. Because Houston's a wrestling town. Booker T, WWE, he has a gym out here. So some of these people he trains. Um, he doesn't
Really,
do. Yeah, Booker T there's been a lot about Booker T's school out here. He trains some of these people.
I guess the very last thing then. What if somebody is to get to go to one of these shows or a show like it? What's your recommendation? What would you recommend to somebody?
Oh, I mean, just go, man. It's people are selling tickets. It's a business, you know. Just go. If you I recommend if you're trying to find it, just lucha. It's simple words. Two words, Lucha Libre, and put in your town and put it on Facebook. Because Facebook and Instagram, that's the free vehicle for marketing these events. This is
Mm-hmm.
this is ground level marketing. So you don't even have to look for any posters on the walls. Just look that up and just pop in, man. Just pop in and bring cash. Because it's probably cash based, and it shouldn't be any more than like 20-25 bucks to get in. Practice your Spanish. You don't need to
Yeah.
know any. You don't. All they want to do is ticket money. Boom. You want to buy a drink? That'll be $1 or $2. Buy a soda. They might sell some beer under the table there. So
Do your thing and enjoy. Enjoy. It's fun.
Well, yo, everyone in chat, please thank Camilo for coming through and telling us about
Hey,
Lucha Libre, man. Good start to the year.
yes, thank you. Thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it. Good to chop it up.
Absolutely. Definitely, man. Take it easy.